Hey everyone, welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. We got another episode coming to you today. But first, if you go check out it's go.parkinvestingpro.com, you can get access to my free webinar and the free ebook. If you get both of them, it'll actually take you through the steps of learning the basics of the mobile home park business all the way up to structuring your first deal, and will give you some ideas of actually how to go out and raise the money for that first deal. So check that out. It's completely free. That's go.parkinvestingpro.com. So now today I've got the MHCI Group. I think I said that right. Did I say that right?
That's right.
That's right. I got it right. So I got the MHCI Group with me. I got Tyler and Jason here, killer operators in the space. Welcome to the MHP Show, guys.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate you having us on.
For sure. So one of you all, you guys can kind of, explain a little bit about your group and where you guys are buying, and tell us a little bit about what you guys do exactly.
Jason, you want to take that one?
Sure. And you want to hop in here? We're based out of Florida, but we own currently right now in Arkansas. We have 16 communities that we've grown over the past 3 years, just under 800 sites. Tyler can tell you how we got into that market here in a bit. But yeah, we find distressed, underutilized communities and value add, of course, and this is what we do all day, every day. Find deals, operate, and that's our business. That's what we do every day.
Nice. So, I'm gonna jump here a little bit. Actually, I'll get back to that. But what was so you guys both can answer this question. I always like to talk to people what was your first entrepreneurial journey? Typically, it's not trailer parks for people. So I would love to know what that is from both of you guys.
Yeah, I can. This is a little off color. So when I was 11, I took a cruise with my mom and my sister and my stepdad at the time down to Central America. And I apologize, I wasn't 11. I was 12 because I was in 7th grade. So we took a cruise down there, and some guys in middle school had started smoking pot. And like I said, a little off color.
It's all good.
Yeah. So they started smoking pot, and one of the things they were doing is I remember some guys that were saying, well, I really don't like smoking out of an apple, but I can't get a pipe.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so I was like, oh, there's a little bit of there's a supply issue, right? But there's a demand, right? And so we're down there, and we're me and my sister kind of cruising through the streets of and I forget exactly what country we were in, but it was I think it was in Mexico or somewhere in Central America, and this guy was selling pipes down there. So, and they were dirt cheap, like 50 cents or something like that. So I ended up buying like 15 of those things and putting them in my bag. Well, the problem is they were used. So we went back through customs. The drug sniffing dogs caught my bag. Anyways, I had to be detained and all this stuff. So that was kind of my first entrepreneurial venture, where I was, trying to bring pipes back for people that were smoking pot in 7th grade.
Wow, that's what would you call it? Pipe arbitrage or
pipe arbitrage? There you go. Yeah. So yeah, but I've done some other interesting businesses, car washes, and I've sold sodas at country music festivals and whatever, everything in between, just to try and make some money, especially in high school and whatever. So it's I started a little vending. I worked construction when I was 14. Don't ask me how I got the job. But I was carrying around basically bags of cement and stuff, and everybody was always thirsty. So I ended up starting a little vending machine. Bought a vending machine and got a loan from one of my buddies. And we did that. But so I've always been kind of a little entrepreneur. I was trying to just knock off little knickknacks and whatnot. So Jason, how about yourself?
Yeah, shoot, mine's not gonna be as exciting as that one. But I asked not too long ago. I remember just asking myself, why am I in these commission onlys or these different instead of corporate America, and there's that, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's, 7 levels. Just you ask yourself 7 times just to get to the root of it. And it ended up being freedom, right? Like just having freedom. And I remember 6 years old, I think, and they had this, they probably still do in school, right? You sell magazines, you go around the block. And I remember that you got to skip school, right? I hated school, didn't like school, wanted to get out of there, right? Just like corporate America, never had that. But this early on, I felt that. And all I had to do was go around my entire neighborhood. They said, whoever sells the most magazines gets to go on a limousine to this mall and have ice cream. And I'm like, and all I have to do is sell magazines so I'm just knocking door to door, like hundreds of doors. And I sold the most, and I'm like, this is all I got to do to get out of sitting there all day, and then later on in life, I had a little different background, played baseball, and it was a little entrepreneurial, I guess you can say, but then just figuring out a way to stay out of a corporate job, right? Like remember just sales, right? Real estate sales, and then just all sorts of stuff. I've sold stocks and online, just name it, right? Just to stay away from the corporate America. Nothing wrong with corporate America. I mean, plenty to argue that. I'm one of them, but yeah, just always had that, wanted to get freedom, and it's not always freedom, right? I mean, Tyler and I, and I'm sure Derek, this isn't just a passive role by any means, right? But at the end of the day, it's we're building something, and it's for ourselves, family, partners. So it's that's kind of where I believe it started.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. And I was in corporate America for a bit. It was kind of quasi corporate America. I was a 1099 all commission. Like I was a glorified entrepreneur, like I had all the expenses of the business, but I had no equity in the business. And so I was spending all this money, investing all this money, building something that I actually couldn't even sell. So, but anyways, okay, guys, I've got the title of the episode. So something from something pipe arbitrage to mobile home, to trailer park master or something. What do you guys think?
There it is.
I like it.
It is.
I like it.
That's going to be an attention grabbing. Like, wait, what is that? What is that?
That's good.
I like that.
Yeah.
And Derek, I forget what type of commission sales were you doing?
I was doing insurance.
Insurance. Oh man, that insurance game is tough.
Yeah, it was brutal, dude. I was basically when I moved to Florida with $300 in my pocket, I was like, oh, I'll get an insurance commission, all commission, no benefits, no nothing, and go cold call business owners every day. It was it was awful. I ended up getting good at it, but it was still it was tough.
It's funny how all of us started in sales. I started as a financial advisor, and I was broke, and I always tell everybody. And again, I'm no Elon Musk or whatever, all those guys that work 120 hours a week, but I was flat broke coming out of college, kind of similar story to that. And I started a company called First Investors. And for 9 months, I worked 7 days a week. I didn't go out on a date. I didn't drink a single drink, drink alcohol. I didn't go out to dinner one time. All I did was work 7 days a week. I made 29,000 phone calls my first year in the business.
Oh my God.
And that's single-handedly how I got started, and Jason, I know, has a similar story to that. Just funny how we all came from that, like, you cut your teeth, you put in the hours, and you either sink or you swim, and you do the work or you don't, or you're really smart, one of the two. You build some algorithm to get leads or whatever you did. But it's funny how we all ended up kind of in the same space, the same kind of real estate niche, and we all kind of came from a sales background.
Yeah. And I think too, like, the interesting thing about that, and I'm curious to know what, from both of you, like, how did the skills you developed in that help you to get where you are today?
Jason, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think all of us even just said it right now, cold calls, right? I mean, there's many of them, but I know reason Tyler and I are even in this partnership stemmed from a cold call. And excuse my French, but it was hey, this is Jason over at Chip. Who the fuck is JP? Boom, hung up on me. Literally. We can dive into that story, but I mean, that was how that started. And And I called him right back, and I'm just like, no, like, you got to at least hear what I got to say, guy.
No,
And
that's awesome.
So it's a skill of just, because that's probably not normal, right? For a lot of normal people. I mean, I'm probably three of us, and any sales guy is just like picking up the phone, calling your mom or something, right? But it's like a lot of people can't do that. It's tough. So I think developing that I call it grit, whatever you want to call it, but the ability just to pick up the phone, start dialing a cold number, right? That's not the easiest. It is the easiest thing in the world. That's not very easy, if that makes zero sense. But I think that's a big one, and just being able to communicate, right? I'm not saying I'm the most personable guy at all whatsoever. I kind of hide in my little hole, and but it's being able to communicate with people, and that's a big one. That's definitely translated into business, and just doing good business too, right? That's I think a huge one to at least last in the business. So, what about you, Ty?
I think for kind of my role, like Jason kind of drums up a lot of the deals. He does the back end systems, where I'm kind of, a little more front line. I think, and I mean, again, there's so many of the responsibilities. Sometimes Jason is freaking calling contractors and stuff like that. So it's the responsibilities get passed around to both of us like you wouldn't believe. So I can't say that's like my only job, right? I mean, I was calling investors just this week. So anyways, we bounce around all over the place, but just as part of my mainline duties, I do mostly the construction side, and I'm on site and I'm dealing with the managers, and my role in the finance world has it kind of helped me with that, because a lot of my clients were kind of no BS guys, and they were really tough with a dollar. And I learned that early on growing up too. My dad is a pretty tough individual, and being tough with a dollar, when you're looking at a contractor in the face, he's like, well, sorry, the quote went up $10,000. You owe me 10 grand. Right. And you being like, hey, you POS, you ain't getting a single dollar more out of me. Yep. And I'm standing right in front of you, so. And, having those tough conversations, especially with managers or firing managers to their face or whatever, that sort of like tenacity and not being shy and kind of the face of adversity is super important when owning these assets, because your residents, your managers, your contractors, they will push you to get money out of you or not pay rent. They may even threaten you. And I think a lot of those skills have kind of carried over. And I don't know. I've always had kind of that I fought Golden Gloves growing up, and I do some jiu-jitsu now, and I've always kind of had that a little inner fire too. So maybe that was just innate, nurture versus nature. So that's definitely helped me, because I have tough conversations. Like I'll probably have a tough conversation with a contractor today. Trying to bill us for some driveways. So it's definitely helped.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you're doing these value add deals, like you got to have those tough conversations, because this, I learned this in the business, because you're going to have tenants come up to you. They're going to give you the best story in the world. They're going to seem so legitimate. The contractor's the same way. And you got to have the policies in place to like, no, we're not going to freaking do that. And, it's good that you have that, especially when you guys are doing these value add deals. And I will say too, on the persistence thing, with cold calling and stuff, like, because you need it in these deals. A lot of times we buy these value add deals, and you guys can probably attest to this. And the way you think it's going to go is not very typical.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
It's everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, and that's a value add deal. I mean, sure, you can make a plan. Sure. Like, you don't know how the tenants are going to react. You don't know, they're going to get pissed off and call code enforcement, and then your plan changes because of X, Y, and Z. So let me ask you guys this. So you're doing value add deals. What's been your toughest turnaround?
Ty, you want to take that one?
Yeah. It's a deal that we have, or for me at least, it's probably a tie. Well, It's a deal we probably have up in Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville area, Springdale area. And I mean, we've had to replace all the sewer lines, or not all the sewer lines. I'm sorry, all the gas lines in there, and had to get them direct build. So we had to manage that project. We renovated 27 park-owned homes in that project. We've turned 6 or 7 managers in a year. And, we've had everything from guys, stealing pipe and burning it in their backyard because they're trying to get the copper out of there. Right. So we've had to evict them. I mean, pretty much every problem you could have under the sun. I've been up there every single week, pretty much for a year, besides Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatever else we got going on. Just because we've had so much manager turnover, and just like a little thing. And again, this is not even a big piece of the whole project, but I've never had this happen before. We had a raccoon chew through one of our mobile home, the insulation at the bottom of the mobile home, and then chew through the wall of the mobile home. And then the raccoon and his family tore the whole house up, and we had just got it cleaned, bug bombed it, the whole 9 yards. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. So I walk in and I see all these little furry paw prints, this freaking hole, and they had scratched up our cabinets. I mean, there's mud all over the place. I mean, you can't even, I was like, and none other park, like no other parks we own that's ever happened, and that's just the tip of the iceberg,
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a challenge, very challenging project.
What was attracting the raccoon? Because we got raccoons in the parks. I've seen them.
Yeah.
But I've never had like savage raccoons, chew a hole through the wall.
I can't tell you. We had a resident. It's actually our manager now, who is actually really good, probably one of our top managers in the portfolio. And I don't know. We had just cleaned the unit, right? So before it was kind of dirty. The manager had left some Doritos and some other stuff. So we had just cleaned the unit. We had just bug bombed the unit, and so it was all clean. And like within a week, I should say, because I go up there every Friday. That had happened. So I walked through the unit again. And I'm like, well, Nate, what happened in here? And it's our manager. And he's like, oh, a raccoon chewed through the wall, I guess. Those are all these little furry paw prints, and then little furrier paw prints, like babies walking around. I have no idea. I could not tell you. Maybe they're trying to get out of the cold. I don't know. It was pretty wild though. I don't know. It just one thing after another with that thing. I'll tell you what, it's been a ball buster, to say the least. Jason, what do you think? What do you think our toughest project's been?
I mean, that definitely is it. I think any project's tough, right? And I think there's some things that might even go overlooked. Like if you're an apartment guy looking in, and we're talking about converting cash to online pay, they'd be like, "Why do you even talk like?" But just like one of our first parks, I remember Tyler there during due diligence, right? We didn't. The sellers sometimes they're not blatantly lying. They're not just lying to your face, but they might not really know. So the first one, just collecting, converting cash, that wasn't the tough turnaround. That was tough. It was all, certain tenant base was just hit wads of cash, right? So converting that before closing, but then really the tough part of that, and this isn't, physical, this is more back end operations, right? But we got into a situation, or I'll take blame on that. I got us into the situation where we were like, oh yes, we got them from cash to checks. So then what happened was they started depositing these checks just pretty much blank without their name. And we couldn't match up who the payer was, right? So then it's like, then we're counting pennies and be like, oh, Javier's $350.69. And but then he rounded up. So it was a nightmare to really just turn the payments around, right? So those, and that's not a monster item, right? I mean, like the tough turnaround, burning through managers. We burned through quite a few horrible managers, probably our worst managers to date at that park, with just bad. I mean, we can get into that story, but it just that, just those little operational payments. Yeah, Patricia. Yeah, we hired, and again, I have to take blame. I can't rope Tyler into this. People that
Tyler's like,
read,
don't you bring me into this junk.
No, I'm not roping into this. This woman couldn't even read, and she's over here trying to collect money. So that's on me. So we make sure they have a basic reading skill. They go take a drug test a lot of times too, because we had a guy so high on drugs. All he had to do to show up for his first day. We gave him a free place to live at our community in a house at the front. All he had to do is go meet Tyler at 8 a.m., step 1 foot out, and he's at work. Tyler goes at 8 a.m. Tyler's like, hey, have you heard from Danny? I'm like, no. And then he's gone. Like, he's nowhere to be found. His wife comes out freaking. He's on some like bender. Then his wife ends up calling us that night, screaming at 11:30. And it was like, so it was that was tough to get through. But yeah, midway, that's probably our toughest total operational, from moving in homes, managing contractors, Tyler, and but yeah, we've had a few. So
yeah,
that's
no, totally, dude. And to mention what you said about getting people to stop paying cash and pay online. The outsider and people in my program, they're like, okay, I'm just going to go, they're taking cash now. I'm going to go in and all the tenants are going to start paying online. I'm like, well, wait a second. It's not as easy as it is saying it. Like, it is a process. These people, some of them don't even have bank accounts, and they've been doing this this way forever. So getting them to change is not, it's not an easy task. And you're right. The multifamily guys that I talk to, they're like, oh, like, because I talked to them, I'm like, oh yeah, we got everybody paying online now. And they're like,
they don't even think about it.
They're like, what the fuck? We've been doing that forever.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you don't understand what we're dealing with here.
Right.
It's just not that easy to do and get people converted over there. And so tell me, so the manager thing, because we went through the same thing. We hired some knuckleheads, and in the beginning, and we may have talked about this on the phone, trying to hire cheap people, because like if you're buying parks and the lot rent's $350 and it's, even 50 lots, I mean, what's the gross revenue on that? I mean, it's not like an insane amount to where there's all kinds of extra cash to bring on quality people. And so have you guys put policies in place after these, the less than ideal managers that you've hired to prevent that from happening? Other than, I think you mentioned a personality test and a drug test, which is good. Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, basically what we lay out some pretty stringent guidelines. So if we ever post it, like on Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever we're posting the job ads, we have, we always say, handyman experience now, have to have your own vehicle, have to have basic computer skills. If they're here in Arkansas, I'll take them through and just have them pop up like an Excel sheet or a Word document just to make sure they know how to get them open. Just basic stuff like that, because our systems now are, you got to be able to get on Zoom calls every single week, right? Because we got to have team meetings, right? So we got to get everybody on, and we do weekly trainings on Rent Manager, right? And Rent Manager is its own beast, right? Yep. Trying to take pictures in Rent Manager, you got to know how to use a phone, right? Or you have to have some sort of smartphone. So we try and take them through, and it eliminates a lot of people out there, because a lot of people, again, as you said, at these small properties, good luck hiring somebody for, $30,000 a year and having not eat up 40-50% of your gross revenue. And that'll blow your whole operating budget for the whole year.
Yep.
So you got to hire these kind of underqualified people, or they're working multiple jobs, right? And they're distracted. So it's tough finding people. The economies of scale thing is one of the reasons we continue to buy in Arkansas, is so we can hire managers that manage multiple properties in the same area, right? So that we can actually get a quality person that wants to stay. And again, I don't know what percentage of America is just working for the weekend, but it's a big percentage. A lot of people don't care at all about their jobs. So that's what we kind of try and do, just to kind of vet the managers coming in, because it's just, if you don't know how to work a computer, we almost just can't use you. It doesn't matter how valuable you are on the handyman side. We got to have pictures of the properties. You got to know how to work a video camera. I mean, I was with one of our managers at Midway, the property that was our biggest kind of turnaround. I was on the phone for an hour and a half trying to walk one of the previous managers through how to work Genius Scan, so I could get a scanned document in from the city. It was like painful. I mean, I eventually went up there on Friday and I showed her how to do it. It took me like 5 minutes, but it was have you ever heard of Genius Scan, Derek? I mean, it's not rocket science.
I mean, I'm sure I've got other scanning apps, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's not complicated. So, anyways, it's the yin and yang is definitely it's a problem with how much you pay somebody versus how qualified they are. So, Jason, did I miss anything there?
No, I mean, you hit it. It's just going back to the policy and procedures, right? Tyler and I talked about this. We're still in the process of building that entirely, right? Because every conversation we have, solving the problems on a daily basis comes back to, okay, well, we can't expect them to just know that, right? We learned that there's no such thing as common sense, right? So like Tyler said, as long as they know how to use a computer, that doesn't mean they qualify. But we make sure property condition photos every week, they're sending those in. Delinquency reports every Friday. What's going on? Who's not paying? Right? Prospect tenant stage. Where are the new prospects at? Because that's a cash flow. Like that's how we're filling these units. So if they know how to at least do those 3 basic items, we have 2 mandatory meetings a week. We're not asking a whole lot, but and we have daily trainings if needed, right? Which is very needed. So they come up frequent. But yeah, those 3 basic, we're slowly implementing more tasks and systems for them. But those 3 basic, I mean, those are, in my opinion, we talked through just the most important: property condition, the general aesthetics of the community that could deter a tenant from pulling in and not wanting to live there, right? So we got to see what's going on. And yeah, delinquency, of course, that's money not collected and the prospects. So those are really our main policies for knowing how to where to start, right, with us, and we train them on those 3 basic, and then everything else we're building out currently right now.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, that's important to have that stuff. And, it's great for some of our newer listeners who are looking for buying their first park. Like, I think it's so important to put that stuff in place, early. We scaled to, when we hit 1,000 lots, just under 1,000, then everything broke. We should have put all these systems and processes in place first. Everything went to shit. And, I tell people, you buy your first park, 20 lots, 30 lots, you need to act like you already have 1,000. If you just got online and renewed the operating permit for whatever state, get out a Microsoft Word, step by step, write it out. So you have that procedure, you can hand it to the next guy. Right. And I didn't do that in the beginning. And so, we had a lot of cleaning up to do. And so I just think some people go into this haphazard and think it's going to be, we'll just hire somebody in the park. Well, it's not exactly that easy to do that.
No.
Was there something
broke that anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Say, everything broke. That's not exactly where we're at right now, because not everything's breaking, but it's, everything going to shit. That is a resounding statement. So it's well said. If you don't have those policies and procedures, things are going to go really haywire.
They're going to, because I mean, you guys are at that point now. So you're virtually at 1,000 lots. So it's different operating. How many parks is that between your 800 lots? How many parks?
16.
So yeah, it's about the same average as us. So it's different when you have your first few and you're at, a couple hundred lots, a few hundred lots, you can kind of fly by the seat of your pants and make it work. But once you get to close to 1,000, it's a different ball game. There's just a lot more moving parts, and you guys are buying the distressed stuff. So project management sounds like you guys know exactly how important that is. I had no idea in the beginning. I didn't even know that was a skill that you needed for this business, but it clearly is, correct?
It is 100%. Yeah. I mean, project management and being able to, get your contractors on a specific schedule and, get your managers on a specific schedule. And, one of the, just a real life challenge we're facing today is, getting our managers just to, instead of sending in the delinquency report, and the vacancy report that they got to send in on a weekly basis, actually having them look at it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you're just sending that shit in and you're not even looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, so I again, just real life example. I looked at a unit the other day, and since I'm on site a lot, right, looking at this, we're doing this project over here, a sewer line or whatever. I'm like, this tenant owns this unit and this unit. When did that happen? Because I always see that this unit's, or I mean, the guy that purchased this unit's black and a female, and this guy that I've seen since day one of inception, since we bought the property, is a Hispanic guy that's older, right? So I'm like, when did that happen? Mm-hmm. And then it turns out the whole thing was wrong. And I'm like, well, our on-site manager there should have picked that up when she was sending in the reports. You know, like you scale to 2,000 units. I'm not going to pick that up. I'm not going to know, right? But it was a legacy property, or a property we owned since day one, and I was there actually physically handing out notices, et cetera. When we first took it over, we didn't have a manager, so that's the reason I'm in tune with the properties. And it's like getting the managers to do that sort of stuff and continue to abide by those policies and procedures is its own undertaking, even when you got them written out.
Yeah, for sure. And we had, the same thing. Like when we finally got quality people in the driver's seat, we had them walk each property lot by lot with, summary rent roll in hand. Who's in here? Is this the right person in here? Are they paying the right amount? Is it right in Rent Manager? Because the data, because we were flying by the seat of our pants, the data, like, and, I used to make fun of mom and pop owners when this was going on with us. I'm like, mom and pops, they don't even know what the hell they have. And I'm like, shit, we didn't know what we had either.
Yeah.
I was like, man, but now we've got the data. It's ironclad, like, because we took the time to do that. But again, going back to what I mentioned before, if you're buying a first park, I don't give a shit if it's 10 units. Like, you need to make sure it's right. And a lot of this stuff that you can do is that you can do due diligence on the walkthrough. And, the first day of acquisition of the park, you can kind of take some of these headaches away, because it seems so rudimentary, like knowing your data and knowing the data is correct. Like, do you guys say, if you would have asked me a year and a half ago, are you confident in your Rent Manager data that it's correct? I would have been like, sure. Now I'm like 100%. It's good now.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times, and what people don't realize too is the communication through the channels, right? So again, another just real life issue we had was, and Jason can attest to this too, because he was dealing with it more than I was. I kind of pointed out the problem, and then Jason actually had to go deal with it, because I leave all the complex technology to Jason. I'm just a Neanderthal, but we were doing rent increases, and then the rent increases weren't getting put into Rent Manager. And then Jason had to go deal with, we did a rent increase. Well, we did different rent increases for our park-owned homes. We had this one property, and then our tenant-owned homes, and then we kept our lease with option to purchase homes, because a lot of those guys were brand new, the same. Well, what ended up happening was, some of the lease with option to purchase homes got moved up with the lot rent, right? Because our VA didn't do things correctly, and then he accidentally moved up some of the tenant. I mean, anyways, it was a whole thing, right? And Jason, I don't know if you want to speak more to that.
Yeah. Well, that's right, because Tyler and we're like, and I knew that was taken care of, right? I mean, rent is a big thing, and going there, and then I call our VA. I'm like, what's going on? I look in here, and I see it was logged in there, and I'm like, wait, it is in there? What's going on, right? And I'm not the tech guru. Tyler gives me way too much credit on that. So there's no, but it was like a matter of like the box was still checked for the old rent, right? So it was logged in there. The box wasn't checked, or it was at the property level, and then he was manually doing some. It was a mishmash. So yeah, just little things like that pop up, continually, like just, trying to make the utilities match with the rent to go out, so that they're not paying the rent, and then the water's not being paid, and then rolling into the next. It's just little things that people wouldn't even think of, or maybe they're hearing and they're just like, I don't even still know what you guys are talking about. But just little things like that on a daily. I mean, it's it's challenging, but
It's definitely challenging.
That's why we're in this business.
For sure. And like, here's another on that. Here's another gold nugget. Like, if you have a small park and you get Metron meters, it's not as simple as just hooking up the meters and they're charging correctly.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you inspect it, like we had a park, we ended up, I think, across most of the stuff in Tampa. I think across all of those, when we finally hired enough people to where Talia in our office could like dig in and figure out where we were at with the water bills. The collection, what we were collecting back was just the recapture was terrible. And the importance of getting that right the first time is huge, because if you're moving quickly and then by the time you get to go look at it, you realize you're collecting, 40% of the water bill, and you were, your pro forma said you were going to collect 70 or 75%, whatever it is. I mean, it's a big number. It kills your NOI. An extra, couple $1,000 a month can kill your NOI.
Sorry, Derek, I was just going to touch on that. Yeah, I was just going to touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
The call we were on right before this one.
Yeah.
Literally, right before this one was on with a new person we just hired who's a superstar, is helping us out with some of the rent manager complexities, a VA, and then me and Jason. And we were going through our budget actual difference between what we're collecting with our Metron meters on all of our properties and what is actually, what we're actually collecting. And where
are you at? Where are you at?
We're about 51-52%.
Yeah.
So
75% was the highest today we went over, but 55 average. So it's not great, but we're recognizing the problem and figuring it out.
Yeah.
If you can get over 80, it's heroic, I think. If you can get over 80.
And I gotta say, I know Frank Rolfe loves those Metron meters and stuff like that. We'll never install another one ever again. The proprietary system that they have on those, any one of your listeners is listening to this, take my word for it here, especially if you're in small markets. The Metron meters, you can't find anybody to fix them, and you can't find anybody to figure out the electronics with them. So unless you're in a Orlando market, a Chicago market, an LA market, right? If you're in a Little Rock market, I don't even know, whatever, some Missouri market, some small Texas market, like a Tyler, Texas or whatever, you're not going to find guys that are going to be able to go out there and fix those. If you get a Next Century meter, a Badger meter, etc., that has a similar platform and it's on an American model, right? You'll find a lot more plumbers that are be able to fix those items than a Metron meter. The Metron meter has a lot more ability for guys that don't have as much cash flow because they allow you to lease those meters, right? But take the upfront hit, take a meter that you can actually fix, because there will be problems with them, right? There will be problems. And the Metron meters have absolutely screwed us with their ability to find somebody that can go out there and fix them. And Metron, their warranty, they always want to send you all these individual parts and then finding a guy that can actually install those individual parts. Like an antenna falls off. You install the antenna, the thing's still not working. Okay, now what? Oh, we install how do we install a gear that's broken in there? Oh, well, I'll send you the gear. Then we got to send our maintenance guy. I got to give we got to give a manager the gear, and then they go install the gear, and it's still not working. Well, the meter's not working, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big problem. Any one of your listeners out there that's thinking about installing Metron, think twice. Spend the extra money, because it'll save you so much headaches. I mean, Derek, have you had a different experience?
Well, I mean, we've definitely had some problems with them, but we're in Orlando, Tampa. Like we've generally either gotten, figured out how to get a replacement meter. I think in Tampa, we ordered like 10 extra ones. And so we just kind of slap one on, slap one off. Where we've had issues, it's just, we've had a park in Tampa reading on the water. It's linked to a DeLand unit. And we're like, so that's been more chaotic. Like they haven't really broken that much for us, like a couple, but it's just been, when they were installed, like something happened with the numbers. And so we've got literally parks that are, 4 hours from each other reading like, it's, that's some of the issues that we've had with it. But I'm going to look into these. I wrote these down that you were mentioning there, looking into that. You guys mentioned something about rehabbing park-owned homes. Are you guys keeping park-owned homes, or are you turning those over?
Jason, you
yeah, we're turning those over. I mean, we turn them as quick as we possibly can. I mean, there's no park owned. I mean, we'll have a couple homes, for example, like the manager that was screaming, "Hi, guy!" Those are physical homes, so we're not ever selling those as a park owned home. But other than that, if it's a unit we can sell, we're lease option to purchase, and we're turning that as fast as we can.
Yeah. Do you find that's been easy in the markets that you are in, or does it take? How long, if a house is vacant, how long does it take to get it occupied?
Yeah, I mean, we have a mix of new homes that come in. So depending on what market, I mean, we're scattered throughout Arkansas. So we're in Southwest Arkansas, which some would argue is war zone. Then Fayetteville's obviously a beautiful market, completely different. So obviously the newer homes are performing much better and selling quicker out in the West. But we have the demand. If we have, we're averaging $350 lot rent, right? Mm-hmm. So that's in the central of the state. So I mean, we have a line out the door for residents. It's just, or we have leads coming in daily. It's just whether or not they qualify or not for our records, right? We do a pretty vigorous background check, and we don't care too much on their credit, but we fill those pretty quickly. The newer homes in that market are a little tougher. It's definitely a slower down. Tyler, I don't know the stats exactly on, if it's a 60-90 day compared to a 30-day, but they're taking significantly longer, the newer homes than when we lease option. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. The newer homes are definitely tougher in Little Rock, where the bulk of our portfolio is. We were targeting kind of on our pro formas, and thank God, basically the bulk of our portfolio that's in kind of the war zone area that Jason just alluded to, are owned by either Jason or myself, or there's another 2 assets that are owned by some investors, but we've already got all their capital back. So they're a little more lenient about distributions, et cetera, because they understand that they don't have any risk in the deal. It's just Jason and I, signing on the PG. And so, but yeah, they definitely do move a little bit slower, for sure. And we try and get rid of those park-owned homes. The thing that we've been not struggling with, but Jason and I have been going back and forth with, is, do you get the 21st Mortgage Cash Program homes, or whatever chattel financer you're going through, right? And do you say, look, this is going to upgrade the aesthetics of my park, and this is going to upgrade by getting new homes through the 21st Mortgage Cash Program. This is going to upgrade the aesthetics. It's also going to upgrade my tenant base. However, my cash flow, because we're in Southwest Little Rock, may be actually less than the lot rent. So just for your listeners out there, hypothetically, your lot rent's $300 a month. Well, if the payment for that home's $500, you better rent that home out for $800. Well, what we're finding is a lot of those new homes are renting out for $725 to $750. So guess what? You're actually collecting less than the lot rent that's actually in your park that the tenant-owned homes are paying. So do you upgrade the aesthetics, take a haircut on the lot rent, or do you outlay the capital for used homes? You bump your yield up, but you're more cash poor, right? Because it costs us, $25,000, $30,000 to go buy a home, deliver the home, a used home, buy a home, deliver a home, get it hooked up to sewer, water, gas, electric, skirting steps, utility hookups, blah, 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 that whole thing. And then you got to go in and rehab it, because you buy a home for $5,000. I mean,
it's going to be dog shit.
$5,000 homes. Yeah.
Like, so call a spade a spade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the question is, do you want to do a little more of a capital outlay, net less, because a new home's going to cost you $45,000, and you're going to get it in there for probably $6,000 on the delivery, right? So you're into a $51,000, and you're probably going to cost you $15,000 to do all the skirting steps, utility hookups, and HVAC, right? So you're into it for mid-60s. Or do you want a used home that's going to cost you $30,000, but it's all the cash, and you get a higher yield from that, right? So it's a struggle for us right now, because we're trying to conserve our cash and also make the properties look better, but we got to generate yield too off these things. So I think it's an interesting yin and yang. I know I kind of went sideways from the park-owned home thing, but it's a real life dilemma for us in the Little Rock market, and maybe weaker markets like Little Rock, or I shouldn't say weaker, but poorer markets like Little Rock versus, I remember, we had a one-off conversation, Derek, where you said that, lot rents of one of your properties in Florida should have been $1,200. Well, that would probably be easy to sell homes all day in that property, right?
100%. Yeah.
So you're facing some different challenges. So I would recommend that, newer operators are coming in for these heavy lifts. You got to look at, the discrepancy on what your pro forma is going to be between a yield play, right, and a new home play, right? Because the new home play is going to be long term, 5 years out, 6 years out, where a used home you could get yield day one, so on a rent to own basis, obviously. So have you faced any challenges like that's you're selling, you got to choose between the two?
Well, so we typically, we haven't really brought any new homes in because we're in ridiculously strong markets. Like I'm talking like you put a Facebook marketplace ad up today, you'll have 300 responses in a day and a half, like a ton of, and so we'll buy a used home typically. And we'll be able to sell it and get our money back out of it. Full cash, no rent to own. Like
interesting.
They'll pay completely for it. Or even that, because our lot rents are much higher, we'll pay 30 grand for a home. We'll pay 20 grand for a home, put it in and sell it, take a loss on it. Because if we're getting $800 in lot rents, worth 100,000 a pad roughly in, the middle of Tampa, who cares if we take, a $15,000 loss, really? So it's just different perspectives and where you're at. And I just, if I'm just going through it in my head, like if I'm buying in a market that's not as strong, it would be hard for me to make sense of buying a $60,000 house and bringing it in. But on the other end of that, so the other place where my mind goes, and so if you're getting $350 in lot rent, how much are they paying in home rent or for the lease to own?
Depends on the park and it depends on the market. But we'll say on average right now, we're getting about $2,000 down, and we're renting those houses out for, depending on the size of the house and whatever, but $850.
Yeah. Yeah. And so me, and maybe I'm just a crazy Florida guy. I'm like, okay, if they're already paying $850, the lot rent should be higher than $350. I don't know.
So when you say they're already paying $850, the lot rent should be higher than $350. Walk us through the math or your logic on that.
No, I'm just saying, in that, I would look at that market and be like, I like to look at the park owned home rent for if I'm looking at another market, and I'm like, man, these people are getting $1,500 in park owned home rent, but lot rent's only $400. I mean, it's just a big gap there. I think lot rent should be more. You see what I'm saying? And so maybe my statement doesn't even necessarily go with what you were trying to figure out, but that's what that would tell me. And, I don't know what the market is for used homes there, but if it were me, I would put an ad out for and see what you could actually get for lot rent, because my guess is that you could get more than $350 for that.
That's an interesting point. That's a really interesting point.
Because they're already paying it.
Right. Yeah. The question though is that if you're only renting those out for $800 and the cash program payment's $550, even if you raise the lot rent up, you make it on the rest of the tenant-owned homes are paying it, right? So that's great. That's great for your overall yield. However, you're still, or in my little scope of the planet, right? The Little Rock world here for mobile home parks, you're still going to be taking a haircut on the overall, because then you need to, if it was at $400 and the cash program payment's still $500, you got to rent that home out for $900 to kind of get your full lot rent.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what my point was with that. I don't know. And that just, are you guys paying for the cash program payment? Like you're doing it, and then you're charging them.
So what happens is that it's one of our properties that has 8 new homes at it. Jason and I always look at that account, and when those cash program payments hit every month, man, it is it's ugly. Because it's usually what we pay is about $50 of insurance on top of the $500 to $560 payment. We got some homes during COVID where they were just jacking up the prices on us. So homes that were supposed to be $35,000 then came in for $46,000.
Yeah.
And that's, you can think about that, at a 10% interest rate and over 15 years, whatever, you can imagine how much the payments went up. So and we sign on a personal guarantee for those homes as well. So the dynamics of the property shift. And Jason, do you want to elaborate on kind of the new homes and because Jason and I, we constantly go back and forth on this stuff, and it's
yeah. And then when are you going to get? So, just really quick. So when you get the 45,000, like when, like you said, it's 5 years, you'll typically get that back, whatever the math is.
No. So we're going to take that to maturity. So we're going to take that all the way out to 15 years, because most of our RTOs are going to turn within somewhere between 12 to 24 months. That's usually how that goes. Yeah. So it's a freaking revolving door. And again, we got great price per pad on a lot of our stuff, but it's work, because the RTOs, people, they say, oh, I want to buy this house. I'm willing to put $1,000 or $2,000 down. However, they don't stay. Because then they got to start fixing sinks and sewer pipes and everything else. And then they're like, well, I don't have the money for that. Yeah. And they end up moving out. So the rent-to-owns, and again, I know you probably don't experience this in Florida, but the rent-to-owns, it's an interesting play, because the capital you're dumping into a lot of these houses are, to get them, rehabbed is, $2,000-$3,000, whenever you turn them. So you got to look at that on your pro forma, something we didn't do a very good job early on, and we're doing a much better job now. And again, the only thing that really, again, I'm not trying to just think about investing with us, was the price. Like, we bought a 22 spacer for $289,000. Oh. It's like, how do you get hurt? How do you get hurt there?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And what like stabilized, like what do you think that park will be worth per pad? 40, 30. Yeah, it's about 30,000 a pad. That's usually what things are trading for. Jason, is that your thoughts, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing conservatively 30. I mean, just in that area. I mean, probably today if we want it. So yeah, that's a conservative number. So it's a win. I mean, we can't lose on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just so crazy. I'm not used to, the deals I'm getting now. I mean, the prices are just, they're just stupid. Like they don't make any sense. I don't know about you guys. What are you guys seeing out there? You guys have any deals in the pipeline now?
I mean, it's excuse me. It's funny you say that, because prices are still ridiculous, and that was one of the main reasons we got into Arkansas, right? And I can't take credit for that. I'll give it to Tyler, and we had a wild hair, but we were just getting crushed down here in Florida. And even when Tyler and I linked up, it was almost 2 years just getting our teeth kicked in, and then just cash offer, and just like and then at that point we had some track record in other, Tyler owned the park down here, but it wasn't competing with these guys. We didn't buy any parks yet together. So it was MHCI Group. Oh, well, send us your deck. Or it's like, so we end up getting to another market. And then once we just started hammering on these sellers, we were just finding these deals at such a discount. I mean, rightfully so, again, Arkansas. So, but sure. Even today with prices still pretty crazy, we're having sellers call us now because of conversations we had 3 years ago. And now they're wanting to sell. And we've just been sticking with them, going back to the persistence deal. And we have a pretty full pipeline of really discounted deals. I mean, I think our last closing was we had a few 100,000, and it was a smaller deal, 50 sites, but 760 was just under $1 million praised as is. And we just continue to find these off market deals that are just under the radar, right? Because I feel in that when you do the math, 800, 700 units on 16, they're relatively small. Our largest asset's 122. We have 18s that we're talking about, 22, 40. So we're averaging about that 40, and that's flying clearly under the institutional guys, but that's just over the weekend warrior, private guy. So we've been able to kind of gobble that up. And yeah, we're continuing to find deals. It's just those value add. We still have quite a few infill. So we're trying to find maybe a few more stable, heavily discounted deals, and we do. We're finding those right now still throughout Arkansas, and we'll expand. I mean, we're bullish Southeast, but we just have all the resources and contacts that we've built over the last few years in Arkansas. So yeah, I mean, we're still moving. I mean, it was a slower year this year. You know, we closed a couple months ago, but we didn't slam dunk 10 deals this year. But we're still putting deals together. So
yeah, that's good. Do you think that you guys will still buy heavy value add moving forward, or is your position changed on those?
It's definitely changed. Can't speak for Tyler here. He might he'll pop back on, but it's definitely changed. But I think we'll absolutely always consider it, and we look at it every day. We talk every day. We're like, man, do we need to look another deal? We got another 800 units in the pipeline. It's just we're deal junkies. You know, that's what keeps us going. The property management is not it, right? Like, right. Property management is not what I got in this business for, but it's the lifeblood of the business. So it's just the deals are what keep us going, and but the business dies without the operation. So we're making sure that's buttoned up. But it's definitely changed. I think we won't pass. I mean, for now, we're definitely really looking into it, and we're being more conservative, right? Instead of estimating maybe 15,000 on this, we're doing 20, or we're padding that, 5,000-10,000 just to be safe, where we don't underestimate the project. Because you said earlier, Derek, get business plan's a plan till you get popped in the mouth, and you got to reevaluate. But we'll still consider, and we're looking. But right now, we're definitely focusing on a little more stable value add project, just not as monster projects.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting. I think it's a really interesting question, especially for guys that are coming in to do heavy value add projects, because what we've been looking at, just kind of running the numbers high level, if you buy an already stabilized asset, right, and you're looking 2 years down the road, and you say, well, this is probably not going to cash flow for 2 years, but it's stable, right? As an operator, I'm looking at a heavy value add project, and I'm probably thinking to myself, well, I'm probably not going to get paid for 2 years anyways. Right, I may be able to distribute some cash flow to some equity guys year 2 or year 1, right after I kind of renovate the park on homes and do what we need to do and turn it over and blah 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 blah. But as an operator, we're not going to get paid probably year 2 or year 3. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, well, if I can convince the equity guys to take 2 years and basically I don't have to do any work, right? While we get that, we just got to raise rents. I'm thinking to myself, again, if the equity guys will go for it, we can sell that as, hey, look, this is a Class A asset. The demand for affordable housing in this area is off the charts. Will continue to be strong single family home prices, strong median income. This is always going to be around. It's a legacy asset, and you guys aren't going to have to worry about us as operators turning this around, right? And worried about our expertise in this field because this property's already turned, right? We just got to manage the day-to-day operations. Easy stuff. And that pitch has become more attractive, and it's going to have lower IRRs, obviously, but it may have more stabilized cash flow for guys that are looking to just clip a coupon. And so that's it. That's the only thing that I think people should consider, because the heavy value add, you're going to be working your fucking ass off to get those things turned, and you ain't going to get paid for it. Yeah, you're not going to get paid for it for a couple of years. So realize that up front, and if your last name is Gates or whatever, great. You're probably going to get paid in the meantime, and you're probably going to be having, a construction guy and a manager that's awesome, and you'll pay out the nose, which is awesome. Good for you. Yeah. When you're bootstrapping this thing, you're not getting paid for a long, long, long time. Right. So that's the reason maybe those heavy value adds are not as attractive, because we're just looking at the back end cash flow. Like, we're not getting paid anyways. We might as well try to sell the easier project versus what we have been doing, right? Yeah. And that's really interesting. I never thought about that, because you're right. In the value add deal, you're not getting paid in the beginning anyways. Like, you're turning the homes over, if you're doing all that, like, there's not going to be any cash flow in the beginning anyways. Yeah. And if you're buying the 4 and 5 star asset, not going to be any cash flow anyways in the beginning.
right? But it's less headache. So I think that's definitely good advice for people. So where can our listeners find you guys?
Yeah, MHCIGroup.com. We're always on, emails, Jason at MHCI Group, Tyler, same, Tyler at MHCI Group. We're always on, always willing to talk all things mobile home parks. So,
and we do some LinkedIn posts and stuff like that, where our MHCI Group's got a LinkedIn page, and we post about a lot of really interesting stuff. A lot of stuff on this call actually about water utility recapture. We talked about that on one of our LinkedIn posts. We talked about zoning certification letters. We talked about park-owned homes and how banks usually value park-owned homes. We talk a lot about the operational side of this, and a lot of people it's a snooze fest for. But operators and guys that are looking to invest with guys like us, it's good to be able to be armed with these sorts of questions, to know the ins and outs, the intricacies of the day-to-day operations. And that's really what our entire LinkedIn page is about for MHCI Group. So I'd recommend any listeners pop on MHCI Group, see if the content is valuable. And if it is, give us a follow and give us a couple likes, and go from there.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Make sure you go and check these guys out. And look, thank you guys for being on. I appreciate your time. I'm actually going to start doing in-person podcasts. So we got to do an in-person when we get that going. So I'll be excited to get.
We'll bring you some cigars and some whiskey. We'll have a good time, Hopefully
so maybe
or something,
Yeah. So maybe I'll partake in a cigar.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it.
Go. Cool. Well, again, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for watching the MHP Show, where we're on every week. Give us a follow. Leave me a nice comment on iTunes or Spotify. It gets us up the rankings. Give us a 5-star review, and we will see you all next week. Peace out.